Well, what's up, good people? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. All right, the Cowboys are working on getting their stuff together here, trying to get all the coaches in order and so on, trying to get everybody ready because you've got the combine and just really 2 weeks and a couple of days. It starts between the 2nd and the 4th, or 2nd and the 5th of March. The NFL season, there is no off season. You know, we already know that we got quarterbacks that are out there looking for new homes, quarterbacks that are going to go into a solitude of darkness. We got quarterbacks who we don't know if we're going to get franchise tagged or whatever. So there's a lot of work being done. The Cowboys still are working on rounding out their coaching staff, and now they have an assistant offensive line coach who is now going into his second year, former Denver Broncos quality control guy. Now, you know, I've heard some of the talking heads, I think it was Colin Cowherd, basically call quality control guys as the guy who go gets you coffee. I think it's a little bit more to it than just that. I really don't think that Brian Schottenheimer was just going to get coffee for me. I really don't think he was the coffee guy. But regardless, we have hired Ramon Chinyong, okay? He is from Texas, so of course there's familiarity, of course, because everybody knows everybody in Texas, of course. He coaches high school ranks in Houston for 10 seasons, so he was a high school coach for 10 seasons. At Westfield High School from 2012 to 2019 before becoming head coach at Fort Bede, Wildridge High School. In 2 seasons at the helm, he led the Eagles to a combined 11-8 record and appearance in the 2020 high school playoffs. So he is working now for the Cowboys. So relatively young guy, offensive lineman, and we'll see that the offensive line will be evolving some in how they play. The big question will be is who's going to be there? We've got decisions to make with a bunch of players that are older on the roster. Let's be clear here. Tyron Smith he's long in the tooth. Still can play when healthy. You just don't know when it's going to be that he's not going to be there. We also have another hole on the offensive line, and that is with Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele is really going to be the wild card for the Cowboys because he played great until he had the ACL. Will this be an ACL injury that's much like Michael Gallup's that ends up being that he's not going to be ready to start the season? And I dare say he may be one of the biggest pieces that we need to come back. If you have him and Tyler Smith on your offensive line, you are actually really good at the tackle position. Tyron Smith, we're talking about a $16 million cap hit. And I'm not sure the Cowboys are going to hold on to that. I'm sorry. I got up at 5:30 this morning. And that was after being awake from like 3 o'clock and staring at the ceiling. And down here working on the red brick house. But depending on the Cowboys' idea, one of the things the Cowboys like to do is, with that first round pick, take the best player in a position. And so when you start talking about picking at 26, there's certain positions that there's going to be a run on. Of course, quarterbacks at 26 you're not getting the top prospects because, you know, you look at it, they think 3 quarterbacks are going to take in the top 10 this year. You know that left tackles, that you're probably going to have about 3 left tackles that are drafted, you know, before 26. You know, edge rushers are going to be drafted. You know, a lot of those are. So when you start looking at positions that there's not a lot of players that are drafted that early, one might be running back. You could go ahead and go with the running back and end up, you know, having a running back on a rookie contract with fresh legs and letting go Zeke Elliott and saving some money. Tight ends. Tight ends are usually second and thirds, but if you want the best tight end, you can get him at 26. Guards and centers. There might be a guard taken before that, but probably not. Center, Definitely not centers. Safeties, although you can get really good safeties in the second quarter. So as we're looking at that, the question will be, will the Cowboys look at getting a speedster receiver? Will they look at a running back? Will they look at a cornerback to go opposite of Diggs? Because the problem for um, the Cowboys is Diggs has gotten so good that they don't challenge him. So the guy who's really important is the number two cornerback because they're throwing at him. They're throwing at him. So you've got to get a second guy that's really good. And this goes back to my whole philosophy because for me, for me, I've always said you get the biggest bang for your buck when you're talking about the defensive line. Because here's the thing. As Micah Parsons in his interview with Sims was talking about getting Deron Payne, the thing that's interesting about defensive line is you do get your biggest bang for the buck if you get a great defensive lineman because a defensive lineman helps you at all three levels. See, the problem is you get a defensive back. Defensive back, I'm a great defensive back. I'm great. But if the rest of the guys suck, it doesn't matter. They're not throwing at you. They're going after those other guys that suck. But when you get a defensive lineman, and this is where the Cowboys have a lot of guys that can rush from the outside, but you need the push in the middle. If you get a guy who can help stop the run, who can get the push in the middle, which means the quarterback can't step up, he can't feel comfortable in the pocket, then the guys on the outside will feast. They're helping everybody else on the defensive line. If that guy in the middle, and we've talked about this before, many times before, those guys in the middle occupy the guards so they don't get up on the linebackers. The linebackers, they can scrape and roll, and they're going to be going downhill, hitting the running backs coming through. And if that defensive line can put pressure on the quarterback, then that means that the cornerbacks don't have to hold up as long. Biggest bang for your buck, defensive line. But we'll see what the Cowboys have in store for us. Unfortunately, drafting where they are, first round picks at 26, every one of those are late round picks. So you really almost look at your first round pick as like a second round, your second round is a third round, and so on and so on. They don't have enough draft picks to fix all the problems. They just don't. And they're going to need to go ahead and do what they don't want to do, which is get into free agency. If the script is out, that seems like Micah Parsons seemed to kind of hint at, they got to still fill the roster with the people to make it believable for the script. All right. Congratulations to Ramon. Welcome to the Dallas Cowboys. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.